Do you remember those days when there was a mad rush to link mobile phone numbers with Aadhaar, supposedly to comply with a directive of the Supreme Court? You had mobile service providers who were bombarding you, subscribers, with dire messages on your phones about how we all had to abide by this alleged order. Well, it was all uncalled for. The Apex Court clarified that it did not order any mandatory linkage at all. But what is this admission and the latest data leak that has just come out today, coming in from Hyderabad, coming as it does when these Aadhaar hearings that are going on in the Apex Court have almost concluded? On the show, we're asking, the Aadhaar database is safe, says the government, but 1.3 lakh details are out. Leaks and controversies, one after the other. So just how safe is your Aadhaar data? That's the question we're asking today. And on the show, to discuss this, we have from Hyderabad, Mohan Guruswamy. He's the chairman of the Center for Policy Alternatives, the Alternative Society. There's Srinivas Kodali, that's a Hyderabad-based cybersecurity researcher, actually the man who unmasked this entire leak. From Bhopal, joining us is Rajat Sethi. He's the public policy graduate from the Harvard Kennedy School, a senior researcher for the fellow for the India Foundation. And from Bangalore, we have Tanuj Bhojwani, who is joining us. But I want to start with Srinivas. Srinivas, you have called out the Andhra Pradesh State Housing Corporation as the latest organization to expose private information about individuals. But why exactly is this leak particularly dangerous?
It's dangerous because they don't address it. I've been bringing out to the attention of UIDAI how Aadhaar data leaks for the past 15 months. It's more than a year, but they never listen and they never address this risk. And the issue is, right now, it's not just AP. This data is leaking across the country. And the reason it's leaking in AP primarily is because AP has always been the ground zero for Aadhaar implementation. It's one of the early states which has adopted the Aadhaar program. And it won't stop leaking, okay? Because as long as you're required to share your Aadhaar data, it'll continue to leak, and it's leaky by design.
Okay, but again, specifically this case, the centre has been telling the Supreme Court that Aadhaar can never be used for surveillance or to track religious and caste information. But this goes contrary to that.
So whether Aadhaar can be used for surveillance, we do not know. But is it possible? Definitely yes. And what we have seen so far is that people can build profiles of users, something similar to your Facebook profiles. Governments have been building beneficiary profiles of every citizen in the country, linking their occupation data, linking their religion, linking their number of people in the family, geotagging their house. They're collecting all sorts of information, and there are no laws which are preventing this. Right now, anything is legal in this country because we do not have a data protection law.
Correct.
So, on the claim of UIDAI saying that it can be used for surveillance, it falls, and it definitely can be used, but we don't know if it's being used.
Okay, but it can be used. All right, Rajat Sethi, come in here now. These leak details have been taken off the website for now, but many would say the damage is done. Clearly, this could be, as we've just heard there, it could be misused by political parties for voter profiling.
Well, I want to delineate two different issues that you're talking about. On one side, we have the Supreme Court's issue. What was the discussion that happened in the courtroom today?
Correct, we will get to that, but I'm asking you about this latest leak.
No, I'm coming to that. See, you need to understand that what technology is doing. I mean, Aadhaar, we've had this debate on NDTV for so many number of times. We understand the security of this thing of Aadhaar remains a critical issue. But this doesn't mean that you're going to throw out the technology altogether. Do you want the entire country to go back to the days when for every mobile connection, you were supposed to give an address proof, a hard copy of your PAN card number, a hard copy of your of any other ID form, and those hard copies are collected at every pan ki dukaan and every nook and corner? Don't you think is that like the advisable way of going forward? Aren't the data supposed to be leaked from those things? I mean, we know for a fact that every single data that reaches to these pawn shops are eventually aggregated at district levels and all, and data leak happens. Okay, we need to come out with a foolproof thing, not by just throwing away and discarding a technology, and without having a technology B option with us, we are trying to compare two different things when you don't even have solutions in place. What constructively as a community we should get together, and there are so many technological evangelicals who are there in this country who should think about it. How do you safeguard data? I mean, there are countries who have already implemented sufficient number of safeguards. Not that it's a rocket science which can't be implemented. We should press upon the government of the day to ensure that the data remains secured in a way none of these leaks happen ever again. But this does not mean that you completely discard Aadhaar altogether.
Okay. But if everything was so positive and wonderful about this system, surely we as Indians, the average Indians, would embrace it on our own. Why then does the government, as the Supreme Court points out, need to fib or lie and then say that the Supreme Court is ordering or asking that you have to tie up your phone numbers, your SIM numbers with the Aadhaar card? Surely we would do it ourselves, because we don't want to stand at that pawn shop and give hard copies of all these things. So surely the government should just explain that logic instead of saying that, oh, the Supreme Court is saying you have to do it. So
no.
we're threatening you now, and phone companies are then bombarding you with messages saying do it, otherwise you will cancel your phone connections.
No, please hear me out. This is an important issue. Not many of your viewers would be aware as to what exactly unfolded. In this Lokniti Foundation case, that is, the hearings are going on in the Supreme Court. In 2017, the court directed that in order to ensure security, the national security, you need to do the re-verification, 100% re-verification of the mobile numbers in 1 year period. Okay. Therefore, the court directed the union government that a method of verification should be conducted to verify 100% mobile numbers. Now, this was the task in front of the government. Now, what methodology does any of the panelists here suggest, wherein in a period time span of 1 year, can the government of the day, which has invested enormous amount of resources and taxpayer resources in Aadhaar system, should completely bypass this and go into some, some technological solution which doesn't even have, which is not even in place in order to do this re-verification of these mobile numbers? Court made a conclusion in this hearing today that it did not mandate Aadhaar, but clearly the court also maintained that it did give the task to the union government to do the verification. Of course, the court is not going to get into the realm of the executive authorities, wherein the executive has to take a decision. How do you implement the court decision? Now, the court's mandate has to be implemented by a verification methodology.
Okay, but that we had the lawyer for UIDAI in court actually admitting finally there, saying that it wasn't the Supreme Court that ordered it, but the TRAI. But Mr. Mohan Guruswamy, will you respond? Can you come in here and respond to Rajat?
Deliberately created by not understanding what Supreme Court is talking about. And there are all these
Mr.
learned
Mohan
people
Guruswamy,
who want to just throw away this technology without having any alternative in place.
I think the young man has to be careful, because he's bordering on contempt, and he's bordering on saying that the judges don't know what they're talking about.
Sir, don't teach me law. I have maintained very clearly.
There was no order from the government.
Rajat, can you please listen to Mr. Guruswamy too? Rajat, can you please listen to Mr. Guruswamy for a second? We've heard you out, Rajat.
These people, the government has been lying to people, lying to mobile phone owners for all these years, for all these months, for the last 15 months, and sending us messages every day saying that your phone will be disconnected, the Supreme Court order, and made about 700 million people comply with this. You can imagine how much of money was wasted, how much of time was wasted and you lied saying that the Supreme Court has ordered. Supreme Court is very clear, they did not order it, and so the using of the name Supreme Court itself involves contempt, and I think the government, I think somebody in the government should take responsibility for it and quit the government. I think the Minister for Information Technology and Telecom, he should go. He's been caught in a lie.
Calm down and please let Mr. Guruswamy speak.
And government has got into the habit. This is
how
these guys function. Now, so it's very clear that the government has been caught in flagrant lying to the people, and the court has rightly directed, and Justice A.K. Sikri and Justice Chandrachud both very explicitly, I read their orders today, very explicitly said there is no linkage. We never asked for it. It's something which the government did on its own, and I think they are using some other order of the court or some other directive of the court to link that with this, which is not correct.
Okay, Tanuj Bhojwani, can you come in here? So the government's turnaround in yesterday's hearing, this really, it's come as a vindication for activists, proving that there was no foundation or judicial backing for its move to mandate Aadhaar linking to mobile numbers. Respond to Mr. Mohan.
I think that's an extreme statement also. I don't think there was no foundation. I don't think there was no judicial argument towards this. I think that is what the court case currently is about. The landmark judgment, fundamental right to privacy, said that, you know, if in the case, in certain cases, if there is an if that fundamental right is to be compromised with other rights, there needs to be need, law, and proportionality. That was the three-part test. And basically what is happening in court right now is deciding if the government could mandate. So if you notice the whole chain of events, I think both Mr. Mohan Guruswamy and Rajat here are right in their own respects, but in all the noise and the cacophony, they tend to not empathize with each other and not listen to what the nuances and what the other is saying. So let me try and take a shot at this. 16th August 2016, there was already a circular saying that here is an alternative to the existing POA process, which is the paperwork and which Rajat was talking about, the eKYC process with sort of an alternative to that. Now, telecom operators, everybody, including people, love this because it reduces the cost. You can get a SIM card free. If you remember, Jio people just lined up and walked away in the same less than 2-5 minutes. So the eKYC process that way, when it was voluntary since August 16, was what was required. Then the court case did happen, the Lokniti case, where the petition happened and they said, look, 90% cards are prepaid and they are unverified and they are fake and they are used for all sorts of things. If you can read the court order, I have it with me if you would like me to read it verbatim, which said very clearly that the 100% re-verification has to happen. The court did not specify how to do it, but they did acknowledge that the government's arguments, the UIDAI and the telecom department's arguments, that we've been using eKYC here and we've been managed to doing it in postpaid, here being postpaid. So we'll come up with something in a year. That was what it was said. It didn't specify what. Then the 23rd March order that you look at from the Department of Telecom, that very clearly mentions that stakeholders were called in. UIDAI, TRAI, PMO was also there. The circular on 23rd March was sent to various people, including the Home Secretary, UIDAI, PMO, DOT and a bunch of others, and the Cellular Operator Association of India, and they were also the Cellular Operator Association of India.
Okay.
All those guys were also involved to ask them, look, you have to actually go and do this process. How will you do it? And they agreed upon eKYC. Now, could they mandate it? Could they make it compulsory for that last dissenting user also who does not want an Aadhaar card? That is under question. That is in the court, and I'm not sure what I can comment on that.
Well, I think that brings us back to the big question. All of this coming when these hearings are underway in the Supreme Court. What does this mean coming so soon? We're going to have a verdict soon. Srinivas, I want to give you the last word here. On some reasonable grounds, there are benefits that Aadhaar offers to citizens. Those benefits are immense. But the actual costs stem from the possible misuse of Aadhaar data. And as we're seeing from this latest leak that you have really uncovered, these leaks just continue one after the other. Last word to you, Srinivas.
I'm not really sure if there are any actual benefits. The benefits that the government always claims is savings, and there is no report. There's no concrete report except for a citation which they always give to the World Bank, saying that there are 11 billion in saving. There's no clear methodology. Nobody knows what the amount of saving it has been done. And if you're talking about the decrease in time that Aadhaar brings in without giving hard copies, remove it. Remove the whole eKYC. If you go to the US, I can buy off a SIM card in the airport. I don't need a KYC to be done. But if you're saying it's in the interest of national security, then there have been terrorists who have been caught with Aadhaar numbers. I don't really see a point where you can actually claim that Aadhaar is solving anything. It does not solve anything.
Okay,
in fact, it brings in a lot of information which is being interlinked here and there, and there is no concrete consistency in the information, because You already linked a phone number to Aadhaar. Now you're linking back Aadhaar to a different phone number.
All right, and when information is leaked, it seems also that marginalized communities, as it was in this case, are certainly the ones most at risk. But this debate is certainly not over. We have those hearings underway in the Supreme Court, so we'll be back on this. But that's all we have time for tonight on Trending. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. Good night.